Nation. The hobby is the people. Weekly news and interviews. It's your number one source. Sports Card Nation. The hobby is the people. Sports Card Nation.
Welcome to another stocked and loaded episode of the Sports Card Nation podcast, the show that brings you all the important hobby news, discussions, debates, opinions, info, and interviews with key hobby and sports dignitaries. Also, if you're good, you know we are going to give away something. Now, here's the guy that wanted the cards more than the gum. John Newman.
What is up, everybody? Episode 109 of Sports Card Nation podcast. Got a great guest today, Rob Valenti of Iron Sportscards. Iron Sportscards is a sponsor of the program, but Rob is fast becoming one of the biggest bulk submitters in the hobby, and we're going to talk a lot about the grading process, the current state of grading, so what we think the future holds, and great conversation with Rob, and good guy, and glad to have him. He's been with the show a long time, and finally, we've always talked about having him come on, and finally we get to do that. So it's a great convo. If you're into grading, even if you're not into grading, it's just an interesting conversation. We're back fresh off our second annual Hobbyist Choice Awards. Had some fellow podcasters and content creators help me out this year with that. I hope you heard it and enjoyed it. If not, you can go back and listen to it. We gave away 19 awards as voted by you, the hobbyists. We took the polls that we posted on different social media sites, tabulated those votes up, and you selected the winners. Not a ton of surprises, maybe a few here and there. Topps wins Company of the Year after Upper Deck won it last year, so we have a new title holder, at least in that category. The hobby story of the year in 2020 was the hobby thriving during a pandemic. I think that's no surprise, and the best new product of the year, and that was one of the closest votes. The Topps Project 2020 just beat out by a nose Panini Mosaic. So, it's a great hobby year, 2020, as we turn the page here into 2021. I hope the best for everybody, outside the hobby as well, with the vaccine, and that we can get on the other side of this, maybe attend the National in Chicago this year, and hopefully that show goes off without a hitch, or worst case scenario, maybe they push it back a little bit, but looking forward to meeting everybody potentially in person. So with that being said, we're going to get this thing kicked off and started.
And here we go.
All right, guys, I hate doing these segments, but I also want to pay respect to people we lose, athletes we lose. And 3 people to mention on this week's show. And 2 of them I have sort of a personal connection with, believe it or not. One I met and spoke with for about 10 minutes on our own. And the other I knew even more so than that. So let's pay our respects here. Let's start with the gentleman I don't know personally at all or had no interaction with. On January 4th, the sports world lost 5-time NBA All-Star Paul Westphal. Also was a 2-time coach of the All-Star game. Won a championship in 1974 with the Boston Celtics. Paul Westphal. Phil Niekro, December 27th, 5-time Gold Glover, 5-time All-Star, 318 wins, Hall of Famer, 1997, and 3,342 Ks. threw a no-hitter. And I met Phil, I believe, 2 or 3 years ago at the Hall of Fame in Cooperstown at a event. And got to chat with him 5-10 minutes. And great guy, kind of a jokester, prankster, and held out his hand for me to shake. Then he pulled it back just like a psych, and then he shook my hand. And he even cracked a joke. He was sitting down, he got up, shook my hand like, "Hey, you look like you need the seat more than me." And we both laughed. And that real down to earth, funny guy. And Phil Negro is gone. And someone else I had more of a personal relationship than the 10-minute interaction that I had with Mr. Negro is local here in Syracuse, Floyd Little, a Syracuse legend. Let me give you his accolades first and then tell you how I know Floyd, okay? Floyd passed away January 1st. Floyd is the NFL Hall of Famer in 2010, a College Hall of Famer in 1983, 5-time Pro Bowler in the NFL, 3-time Syracuse All-American. A little tough for me, sorry for the pause. I got to know Floyd Little here in Syracuse from many of the events. He came back, he lived here in Syracuse, was like the assistant to the AD, and I'm a long-time season ticket holder for Syracuse football. And so they have many private events, and I had many conversations with Floyd. I can't name a much finer gentleman that I know. I mean, it might be a tie with a lot of, some other people, but really down to earth. You never know. He was a Hall of Famer. He didn't throw it in your face. He didn't walk around with his chest puffed out. I also got to know Floyd from coaching high school varsity football here in Syracuse. And we would do some practices and stuff on campus. And on more than one occasion, Floyd came around and spoke to our guys and was, stressed about staying in school and making grades and life after football. And very eloquent, very honest, and compassionate, enthusiastic, and, glad those kids got some of that enlightenment from an NFL Hall of Famer. Here you have an NFL Hall of Famer, in your locker room talking to your guys. And thanked, Floyd on those occasions. He did that, and, I don't know, I probably don't know me by name, but, maybe first name, but, formed, got to know him a little bit, Floyd Little, the man, and, to tough loss here in Syracuse. So, Godspeed, Floyd Little. We love you.
Sports Card Nation Podcast is your weekly hobby and sports podcast. Now on tons of platforms including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, and many more. Listened to in 44 different countries globally, Sports Card Nation is one of the most interactive podcasts around, providing great content, giveaways, and some of the hobby's best interview guests without time constraints. Thousands can't be wrong. We want to thank all the wonderful listeners around the world, our awesome guests on the show, and our tremendous sponsors making us what we are today. Remember, without you, there's no us.
It's time for the Hobby What's Up, where we go around the hobby world and tell you all the latest news and breaking stories from the hobby we love.
What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up?
What's up with the new grading company, CSG? Well, they're opening the doors in February, so more details are coming out, including pricing. They're going to use automation when it comes to determining the centering of your cards that you've subbed. Also some forensic stuff. They didn't go into details there. Again, they're going to start in February. The labels are going to be anti-counterfeit. And here's your pricing. $8 for 50 or more cards. $15 a card for 15-day service. And $100 for 5-day service. I suspect that early on they will get the cards back in a timely manner. And I also expect that a crescendo will start to happen at that price level. I think these prices were actually a little bit lower than I thought, and it's probably smart on their part to kind of build up some early momentum with lower prices. I don't think their prices will stay at those levels, so if this is a company you think you're going to get behind, you may want to get your cards in early. So we'll see how this goes. I think early returns for them are going to be optimistic, and then, like everything else, will they be able to handle the onslaught once it arrives at their door? Panini America has signed David Beckham to an exclusive rights deal. This is for autograph cards and memorabilia. They'll be making their debut in the soon-to-come 2020 Immaculate Soccer release. And so look for Beckham products and all the Panini soccer releases soon to come. The fractional share market is still on fire. I belong to Rally and Collectible, and I can tell you, while I've bought into 4 or 5, haven't done anything recently, but I'll get the notifications on my phone saying this is now open, whatever the item is, usually a sports card or memorabilia item, and very quickly the following notification follows right behind it saying that the item is sold out.
That was legitness. Yeah, it was, huh?
We've talked about this on various shows, whether this market has a place in the hobby and whether it will last. And gotta tell you, I think it's gonna. It may not be for everybody. I don't even know how much, even though I've done a little bit of dabbling in it early, I don't know how much more I'll honestly do. I'm Jackie Robinson's kind of a thing for me, so maybe if something of his pops up, but it's not something I'm probably going to do a ton more with. But apparently other people love it, because like I said, anytime there's an offering, 5-10 minutes later it's full and it's sold out. So this, I believe, is here to stay. As the pandemic continues and numbers also are rising, certain states have shut back down, California being one. But many shows right now are already starting to get pushed back rather than canceled, and kind of dates moved. Right now, obviously the National remains scheduled, but may we see it pushed back like they attempted to do last year? Unless we get some real positive news quick on COVID-19, I believe that may be still a possibility there. We'll have to obviously wait and see. Well, it was nice knowing you, Mayumi Sato. She's out. Jared Kelly is in the Topps Living set for artists, with this week's release of Garrett Cole and Cole Tucker. Many people pointing out the elongated necks of both of those players. So I don't know if that's Jared Kelly's style. He's a great artist. I mean, all these artists are talented, and they're beautiful cards. So Living Set's not going to miss a beat with Jared Kelly. It'd be interesting to see if the long necks continue with future works. But Jared Kelly in, Sato out at Topps for painters on the Living set.
Being creative on canvas, just to take your time and sit down, have nothing in mind when you start. just have a good feeling and be happy and in love with life and your world and sit down and begin playing. And if you feel good about yourself and the world, it'll show in your painting, and all these little things will happen.
We love our listeners. Without you, there is no us. We care about your opinions and feedback and invite you to reach out to us on any of our social media accounts. On Instagram at Sports Card Nation Podcast, Twitter at SportsCard NATI1, or email the show at sportscardnationpc@gmail.com. We don't ask for much, but if you really like the show, give us a shout out. Tell your friends or give us a follow on our social medias. If you enjoy the show, please give us a positive review on iTunes or any of the platforms you are listening on. Thank you.
Five, four, three, two, one.
Commence interview sequence.
All right, real happy to have my next guest on the 101 Card Shop guest line. Took a while. I've been bugging him. I'm surprised he didn't block my calls, but or my text. And Rob Valenti from Iron Sports. I also want to add a sponsor of Sports Card Nation. I want to, in person, I know I've thanked you plenty of times, but on the air, thank you for being part of the Sports Card Nation crew here and the family and a sponsor. And you do giveaways on the show. Many people have been fortunate enough to get some free subs with you, and that's always nice. Winning free swag is always a good thing. So thanks, Rob. Like I said, you've been I looked it up before we came on. I know you've been with us a long time, but I wanted to be since episode 51, and we're in the low hundreds now. So when you think about that and one episode a week, that's we're almost approaching a year as working relationship. And I don't look at it like a work. I probably bad choice of words, but glad you're part of the show. Glad to finally have you on now. So welcome.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks a lot, John. I appreciate it. I love working with you and stuff, doing the giveaways, and finally getting on the show, which is great. I'm happy we were able finally to coordinate it and stuff like that. Been looking forward to it, and continued success with the show and with the giveaways, and keep going, getting some more, getting more fans, getting more people to watch it, which is cool.
Yeah, and right back with you, and we're going to get into that. I think it's serendipity that we got you on. It took a little bit, but I think the timing's good with what's going on in the grading world right now. We'll save that for a little bit later. I want to talk about you and kind of it's the old kind of boring podcast question, but we all have to start somewhere. I love those stories, even though many of them are similar, they're not always exactly the same. And so, how did it all begin for you, Rob, in the card world?
So I would say I was probably about 5, because I remember, when I was younger, finding like 85 Tops football and stuff. So that was probably the first year I started buying, collecting when I was a kid, 85, 86. And it just went from there. I would go to the local shows in New York City, mainly in Queens, where I grew up. And I had one local shop. It was called TJF's. Great guys, Frank and Jack. I still remember them. They, we used to just basically, me and a couple of buddies, that was like our second home. For dinner, my mother would call the place and say, hey, Rob's got to come home for dinner. And they had video games in there too, so we just hang out there all day, play video games, talk with them, and stuff like that. So that's basically how it started. I was there for probably till I was like a teenager, late teenager, and then I think they ended up closing down and moving out of state, one of them, and another one just, did something else. But so like by like the late 90s, they were gone, and I was going to just other local card shops, buying here and there, card shows. Then, got my license, so we drive to Long Island, be able to go to different places. Probably into my early 20s and stuff. Then I had like a little lull where I didn't really do as much. I'd go on eBay here and there and get, buy some stuff. Then I would say I probably had like a good 10 year of not really doing much, with the sport. Very little, some eBay, some card stores here and there if I happen to see them, but not as much as when I was younger. And then I would say probably like, it's got to be maybe 10 years ago, I started, probably when I was about 30-ish or so, in my early 30s, I started back again, getting in, and then I started getting into the Facebook groups, when all the social media started, and, so that's how I basically, started getting back into it, seeing like the, Raz that they call it, I'm like, hey, what the heck is this? This looks fun, and, I got into that. Then I started my Facebook group, Iron Sportscards. Basically, the name I got because I actually my normal job is an iron worker. So, I do a lot of, buildings across the city and bridges and stuff. So that's where I got the name Iron, Sports Cards. So that, I went with that. And then I was doing some PSA submissions, just from friends and locals and stuff like that. And then as it started to get a little bigger, and I said, you know what, let me try to take it to the next level. That's when I started, thankfully the Facebook group helped. And then I started, the Iron PSA. And then I started our own Facebook group. And, now I've got into Twitter and, Instagram. And thanks to you as well, getting my name out there. It's just like a snowball effect. And it's just, exploded. Like, I went from, a couple of years where it was like 100 or so, a couple of 100 cards, per submission to now, thousands of cards, per submission. So it's, it's really, it's going good, and, I'm happy with it.
I love the story how you came up with Iron Sports Card, just so apropos and different too, there's probably some people who, if they don't know, I'm a Brooklyn kid, so not far from Queens, and, but there's probably people, if they don't know your background or where you're from, they might think like Pittsburgh or, but here in, I was funny because that was going to be one of the questions I asked you is where did the moniker come from? And you answered it, and I love it. And so you mentioned kind of coming back in when you were in your 30s, coming back to the hobby. Did you still have all your stuff, or did you have to kind of start from square one?
I still had all my stuff. I went back to my mother's house to find, this other stuff that I had, just there that I didn't take with me when I left. So, like I said, I really did still have everything, which was cool. To go back and, look and find and say, hey, I remember this. How did I get this? I remember, going to this place and, this card show and getting this card, or, this card show and getting that card. So it was pretty cool.
So I got to ask you, is it your collecting habits wise? Obviously I sell cards. I mean, there's very few people, I don't know what the percentage is, but everyone probably, even if it's just to buy more cards they like, people sell some stuff. Do you PC? Do you PC much? Is there stuff like, hey, this is not to be marketed, or?
I do. I PC some Mike Trout stuff, mainly like autos and a couple of his rookies that I have. I PC some vintage, some mantles, some tobacco stuff. Like I got a Ty Cobb, I got Christy Matheson, so stuff like that. It's not a huge PC, but I mean, if I showed you all the cards, it would look like I have a huge PC. I just don't have the time to, I would love to sell a lot of stuff. I just don't have the time between work. PSA really keeps me, busy. So I don't really get to list a lot of my stuff. Maybe I think about sometimes sending them out to, maybe a consignment place just to do it for me because I just don't have the time. But I mean, I have a ton of stuff that I'd love to sell, but I definitely do have some PC stuff, some Derek Jeter as well that I PC. But yeah, I'm very picky with my stuff. It's got to be. I like graded stuff. Too many times, I've gotten stuff that's not graded, and I just wasn't happy with it. After getting it from people, everyone says, "Hey, it's mint." It's
always mint. It's always mint.
10. Oh yeah, it'll be a 10. No, I guarantee it'll be a 10. And then you get it, and you're like, So I'd rather spend the extra money, and and get it graded already, and be done with it.
Now I tell a story. I don't know if you heard me tell this, but I'll talk about it again. When grading, I had a store from 92 to 97, and those were the years grading was really sort of kind of coming into its own. Mm-hmm. And I remember one of my good customers, brought a graded card in. And I knew about it, but I didn't really think much about it. Man, sort of goofy. You send your card to them. You pay them. They tell you what condition your card is. And so, full disclosure, and I've said this on people probably listening to this, Rob, like, we heard this story, John, for like the 15th time. But I kind of thought grading was sort of goofy, and it wasn't going to last. I thought it was going to be sort of like a passing fad. And obviously, here we are in 2020, and I'm wrong more than once, and that was one I swung and missed on. And I'm glad I did, because I love it. I do a lot with it as far as submitting, buying, even what I don't PC a ton, but a lot of the stuff I do keep is in graded form, and it just it's a huge part. Whether you like it or you don't like it, makes no difference. It's here to stay.
Yeah,
as you well know, and it's a huge part of the hobby. I had Matt Greeny on from My Slabs, I think 3-4 weeks ago, and I asked him, Matt, what do you think? What percentage of the hobby you think participates in the grading aspect? And I had a number in my own mind, but I wanted his take as someone who runs basically a site that sells slab cards, and I was shocked at what he said. He put the percentage at 80. I was thinking 60, and he might be right. Who knows? I mean, it's just kind of an arbitrary, speculative number, but it's a high number. Whatever it is, I believe it's over 50%. I think that's a safe bet now, because there's even someone like me who in the 90s thought it was kind of goofy. And now we're on that other side of the fence. I think there's a lot of people. I know a lot of people have said that. It sounds like me, John, and here we are. And so I guess my question to you: did you always like Did you always like it, or did you have when you first learned about it? Were you all in, or did you say like I don't know?
No, I mean I remember buying probably one of my first cards off of eBay. In like the mid 90s, I think it was a Ken Griffey Jr. like 89 tops traded, and I thought it was cool. And from then on, I really just tried to continue to keep getting graded cards, and luckily I did have a lot of graded cards back from early on when PSA started, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, and so you getting into like how Iron Sportscards came to be. And you're doing very well, and then continued success. Like you said, you kind of just did it sort of like a side thing. Hey, I'm going to send probably some of my cards in. You want to jump in on the sub with me type of deal. When did the light bulb go on, and you're like, hey, I want to, like you said, take this to the next level. Like this can be more than it is now. I can make a sort of an extra income with it. Truth be told, but like when did you think about that and talk about that process? Maybe some of the pratfalls you ran into at first and those sort of things.
It's probably I would say it was probably close to about 2 years ago where I really started, trying to push it. to the people from my other from my regular Facebook group, the Iron Sportscard group, and it just, it started just taking off, and I just seemed like the right time. I mean, everybody was, buying and selling cards. I mean, every day I would see, cards being sold and bought on the Facebook group, and then on, a bunch of other Facebook groups that I'm a part of. And, you'd see sales on eBay, and you just started to see it, snowballing, and a lot of, graded cards, whether it was, Beckett or SGC or PSA, you just seen it just kept going up. The numbers just kept going up and up. And I'm like, let me just, let me try to focus on this heavily now, instead of just, my local buddies and, maybe a local card shop that I got hooked up with that, they had a couple of people that would, bring stuff. And I said, let me just, let me push it and see what happens. And it just started, taking off. And, like I said, a lot of people already knew me from my Facebook group or from other Facebook groups. And they, they trusted me, which I appreciated in the beginning. And it just, kept going and going. And then I started getting into Twitter, which I never really did before, and Instagram. And I'm trying to build it up through there as well. And it's been, it's been pretty good. I actually got, I'm sure you already seen, but, I hooked up with Phil Hughes, and he, he sends me his cards to be submitted.
How funny is that? Not to cut you off, Rob, but like, you're in New York. I don't know if I'm a Mets guy, but I mean, I know who Phil Hughes is, and if you're just a baseball fan, you don't have to be that's not a New York City thing. Yeah. But here you are watching a guy, pitch on the mound. Oh yeah. And then the next thing you know, you're working with him as far as with cards and submitting. I mean, how surreal? Speak to that. Like, how surreal is that for you?
Yeah, no, that was great. I'm a huge Yankee fan my whole life. Yeah. Yankee fan, so.
And Queens, you're a Queens kid.
I know. I had relatives from the Bronx and stuff like that. So they always talk about Yankees, and that's how I went. I went with the Yankees, but it was cool always watching them. I always loved, I love Phil Hughes. I love the Yankees, in those times, and like I said, it was just surreal, just hooking up with him, and seeing that he actually was into cards, and doing his his Phil's pulls and his breaks and stuff like that. It was really, I got a kick out of it that you just never really thought that these, guys that are, that we looked up to, that are, above, and that they're into the same thing, the same hobby that we are. So that was pretty cool.
You're seeing more of that too. It's not just you. You're seeing, I know Josh Donaldson. You're seeing celebrities now, Marky Mark, Steve Aoki. Yep. I know I'm leaving people off because I'm just thinking rapid fire. And, with Phil Hughes, too, a lot of times, you see these celebrities get involved in things, and they sort of just dabble and just make, like, one Instagram post, hey, check this card out. Phil Hughes is in it, like, big time. Like, I mean, he's producing some serious, like, there's no doubt, there's no doubt in him, like, he's in it for the long haul and serious about it. He's not just dabbling. I mean, he's jumped in the pool and he's swimming big time, and that's good to see. You always kind of question someone when they're just sort of almost like they're posing about it rather than really passionate about it. You can't argue at he number one, he knows what he's it's funny to watch him open stuff, and these are guys he played with. We open it and we he's telling stories about him that obviously only he could say where we can't, and I always get a kick out of that, and then the fact that he enjoyed, you would think after a while someone like that has got so many other things probably going on or pulling them in different directions, yet he still does a lot with it and does a great job.
As well. He really is a nice guy too. I mean, I've talked to him, and he really is he's a good guy. I appreciate he gave me a couple of shout outs and stuff like that, which was pretty cool. I appreciate that, and like I said, he's just he's a down to earth guy. He's really cool, and I hope he doesn't mind me, throwing his name out there.
No, hey, listen, I'll say it. If I don't know if modest would be probably the word I'd use with him. I wouldn't say he's necessarily cocky or conceited, but he's not shy. And this is the wrong sort of hobby to be shy in anyway. So, but I mean that's cool. Step aside for a quick break, but when we come back, more with Rob Valenti. Let me tell you about Iron Sportscards and Collectibles. They're your number one source for all your PSA submissions. They offer various service levels at the lowest prices around. They even provide the card savers your cards need to be submitted at no extra charge. Their elite status helps improve turnaround times, and their chat rooms keep you abreast of your subs and the status of your cards. What are you waiting for? Contact Rob on Facebook, on Iron Sports Card Group. That's Iron Sports Card Group on Facebook. Or get a hold of Rob on Twitter at Iron Sports Cards. All one word, at Iron Sports Cards. They'll take care of you. Sports Card Nation is back with Rob Valenti. Well, how about, you going from just, hey, I'm sending the PSA you want in to really jumping full bore into it. How difficult was that? Like, did you?
Yeah, I mean, it was a little difficult to figure out how to, make the time with life and my job, my family, my kids, to juggle everything, to get everything on a schedule. But now I got everything, basically, down back. Yeah, where stuff is coming in from people, and I have my times that I know when I can just bang them out, do what I have to do with them, and still be able to have my personal life, my family life, my work, and everything like that. So.
Yeah, and I've always said on this show, Rob, I do the other show there, the shorter one, Hobby Quick Hits, and I've done a few episodes with time and maximizing your time, and also, I used to do a lot of show circuits, and I've seen friends of mine get divorced because they were never home, and just traveling the country doing shows, and it's tough. You gotta find that balance. It's sometimes easier said than done, and but like you said, you're doing that, and you're still married, and so am I. And that's a good thing, and but you got to find that that balance, that equilibrium, and still enjoy it too. And I always say too, doing something as much as you enjoy it, if you do it too much, you can it gets monotonous and can wear on you too. Yeah. So there's times I've said on this show, I'll take a day or two and I just won't do anything card related, show related, just whatever else. Watch TV. I play softball still at my advanced stage. Just do other stuff. I think you appreciate the stuff you have passion for when you don't do it all the time, because then you look forward when you're doing it. And if you just did it too much, you just become sort of, old hat, so to speak.
Yeah, get down.
Yeah, exactly. That's probably the best way to put it. But sounds like you got that kind of figured out, and an algorithm there, if you will. And I always wonder with both committers like yourself and other, what happens when like multiple people send like the similar card, or it's not similar but the same card.
Yeah, that's a great question. A lot of people ask that question. So basically, if you send me your cards, and let's just say they're all Prism Zions.
Yeah.
And 5-10 other people sent me the same cards. So when we take your cards and we log them in, they're all going to be logged in order. If you send me 20 cards, all your cards are going to be logged in order, and then the next person, his cards will be logged in order, and then so on. So, and now when they go to PSA, they all go in that specific order, and after PSA grades them and sends them back, they come back in that same exact order. And then you can tell by the serial numbers on the slabs that every one of your cards is in sequence, so you don't have to worry about you having the same Zion Prism as 10 or 20 other people sending into the group.
Yeah, no, that's good. I always just wondered that, and It's an interesting question, and I'm sure there's people listening right now like wondering, oh man, I'm glad John asked that because I wanted the same thing. There's your answer. So, well, listen, I'm like I said, I wanted to get you on sooner. Better late than never, Rob. And truthfully, the timing probably works out for the best because the news on the grading front has been fast and furious, if you will, especially on the PSA side. We all know, if you want to call them the big three, PSA, BGS, SEC, they're all having backlogs now at this point. We're still in the pandemic, so we'll give them sort of a semi-pass, if you will, because of that. They might not be operating. I don't think that's the only reason, but that's we could do an hour just in that direction. Yeah. I don't want to, but I'm sure you probably don't either. But so they're all similar with the backlog right now. I don't think any one right now, but they're all trying to make moves. They're all, like chess matches, trying to make moves to catch up. Some of those moves, we've seen some price increases, maybe to slow down the influx of what people would call, lesser cards, if you will. Other people use the term base cards, which I don't like because a Mike Trout update rookie is a base card, and that's a pretty good base card, So I don't. Base cards have value too, and when people use that term base card, I always cringe a little bit because some of these cards that are very valuable are original, not our base cards. They've just escalated in value. They're usually rookie cards, obviously, and I hate that term. So I'll use the term lesser cards, if you will. And people want to see less of them. I've even seen on message boards or Facebook threads someone yelling at someone else because they're submitting those the posts of cards and they'll post, hey, you're the problem, why they're backlogged, those shouldn't be sent in, and I hate seeing that. Like if someone's paying, it's their cards.
Exactly.
It's like going to a restaurant. The guy in front of you, fast food, let's say, and the guy in front of you in line orders something, and you say, "Oh man, that's terrible." You should order like a salad, not the Big Mac. And who are you? It's my lunch, it's my money.
Exactly.
I don't like when people kind of point fingers that you're the reason. No, I'm submitting my cards. I'm paying the price it costs, whatever that may be at the time. It's on the grading companies, whichever one it is, to figure out. Like any business, the business increase, you got to figure something out. I know a lot of people say, well, hire more graders. I've said that myself. Full disclosure, it's not as easy as that. You got to train somebody. It's not something like, hey, a week later you're ready to start handling, Mickey Mantle and Ty Cobb cards and slapping grades on them. So, that's the easy cop-out answer. I've said it myself, so I'll throw myself a little bit under that bus. But, there's got to be different things. We're hearing, PSA has expanded and purchased the building across the street. We'll get into the buyout here, and I think that's the bigger thing, too. We hear automation as a potential solution. I had Matt Greeny on, going back to that from My Slabs, and Matt came up, and I asked him about, his thoughts. I'm sort of, and I want your opinion too, and that's why I'm asking, giving some backdrop on this. I'm not a real big fan, from what I know of it, of automation. I want my cards back as fast as they can come back. I get all that, but automate. Now there's different forms of automation. There's going to be maybe a computer that can scan a card and give its assessment of a grade. Then there's automation in the non-grading portion, but just getting these cards in the slab, the flips all filled out and packaged up. That's that. So the different automation can take different forms and different levels. But I want to speak to the automation with as far as actually grading the cards. And it makes me a little nervous. Maybe I'm the old man on the porch a little bit. The example I always use when I hear automation and grading, Rob, is we want to replace the home plate umpire in baseball with Quest Tech, right? The computer is just going to automatically call either a ball or a strike, and we get rid of that guy, and I know they've used it in trials in addition to the home plate umpire, just to kind of do studies and get kind of accuracy or the difference between the human element and the computer element. I'm a little nervous with that. Even if that ever happens, I still want somebody before that thing gets sent back to me or whoever else, a human look at it too, and just all right, or maybe the computer missed this, or both ways, good and bad. Hey, they gave this an 8, and I'm looking at it. I don't know why it graded it an 8 because I don't see nothing wrong. Yeah. Call someone else in. Hey, Rob, you look at this. This, the computer says this is an 8. To me, is at least a 9 or 10. What do you say? And vice versa. Hey, the computer gave it a 10, but I'm looking at it right here. Look at this corner. And so the automation scares me. Matt Greeny's explanation, he likes it, and and it makes sense. I'm not saying he's wrong. We might differ on what we want to see, but I don't think his explanation of why he's sort of a fan of it. His thing is, he says, hey, John, you're a grader. I'm a grader. We both report to work. You got in an argument with your wife that morning over something. You came to work, it's on your mind, you're kind of grumpy, and you're looking at a card, and you're in that mood, and it's close between an 8 and a 9, and because of where your mindset's at, it's getting an 8. And, he says, hey, I had a great night. Me and my wife went out to dinner, had a nice night, yada, yada, yada. I wake up, I'm in a good mood, I come to work, same situation, and I give that card a 9 or a 10. Oh, man, I'm in a good mood. I'm making this person's day. And he says the computer would take out the emotional aspect of grading. And, my answer to that is, well, that's on the grader. You should take the emotional aspect out if you can. I guess it's, again, another thing that's easier said than done. And so, your thoughts on those kind of scenarios.
Yeah, I mean, I understand the automation and stuff like that. I don't see it happening to actually physically, do the grades, of the cards automated. I see automated of getting the cards in, getting them, logged and sorted or wherever, and then on the back end, like you said, the flips and the cases, and maybe there's machines that will slide the cards into the cases and they could, to go. But I don't think the physical, the grade is going to come from the machine. I agree with you. I wouldn't like it if it did. I mean, if it did, there's nothing I could do. I'd rather it be a human, looking at the card and giving his opinion on on the card than a computer. And then there's going to be people that are going to say, the Russian hacking is who hacked. Somebody can hack these computers, and who knows? I mean, anything can happen. People are going to start saying things. I mean, there's just too many things, too many ifs. About that. I'd rather just be safe. A guy's looking at it, or a lady, whoever it is there. They give their opinion. It goes into a machine, and the machine takes care of the rest after that.
Yeah, I know. I'm with you. It's funny you said about the. I'm a little older than you. I watched I Love Lucy as a kid, and I don't know if you see you like the show, but there was an episode. There was an episode on that show where Lucille Ball was working in a chocolate factory, and the chocolates were coming down the line, and it just everything got all botched up, and so I equate that to this computer's just gonna glitch, and it's just gonna pump out either everything's an 8 or everything's a 10. It's just gonna bing, 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 and I have worst case scenarios in my head, and if they did go to You know, and the other thing, I think of the human element, right? We get computers and we replace human people. I'm not a fan.
Yeah.
I'm not really a big fan of that. You know, we already got too much unemployment sometimes already. Why do we want to put more people on that line? And so if they went to a computer element as far as the grading goes, it's like I said already, I'd still like to see a supervisor or someone else before that thing gets packaged up. They have to sign off on, you know, even if it's less meticulous with a loop, they got to kind of give at least an eye test or magnification test and say, all right, the computer said it's a 9. I did a quick look-see. I'm going to go, it's going to stay the 9. I didn't see anything that sways it either way, either as an 8 or a 10. We'll keep it as the 9. Almost like football, right? Instant replay, right? The referee makes the call on the field, then they go to the booth, and it's got to be conclusive to overturn it.
Right.
Sort of like that with grading. Like if they do go to computer grading, it's got to be
the flag out. Do we get to throw the flag out?
Or they don't.
Hey, you know?
Yeah, that would open up a can of worms if we get to do that. So, but you know, all these things we're thinking of, and I know you do a lot with the grading. So these were things I definitely wanted to get your take and your 2 cents. I'm with you. I'm not opposed to automation, but I just don't want everything. I just don't want to see 30 guys walking out of a grading company with pink slips. And, you know, the XR 100 just took my job, you know, that sort of thing. And so,
if you know, whatever they figure out to help, you know, speed up, it's going to be great. You know, if it's going to speed up the subs, you know, it'll be good. You know, like I said, you don't want it to go to full automation where it's everything, and you know, unfortunately, people would lose jobs and stuff like that. I mean, some automation is good, like I said, you know, on the front end, and then you know, after they decide what the grade is, you know, after that, you know, automated from then on is fine.
Yeah.
But to go over, you know, the whole thing automated, I don't know. It's going to be, and if they do, I mean, listen, you're talking a serious money to, you know, I'm sure to have something like that, you know, built and you know, and made. To you know, to do this. I mean, the software and this and that, you're talking, you know, serious money.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think we're thinking along the same lines. Like, we like automation, but in the right form and in the right fashion and whatnot. Another quick break, but we'll be back with Rob and Iron Sportscards. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. They give you the tools that are needed to allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. And they distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast. It's why I use it and why you should too. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today. We are back with Rob Valenti from Iron Sportscards. So we have a new, you know, I mean, people don't realize, you know, we say the big 3 with PSA, BGS, and SGC. There's 30, 40 grading companies, you know. But, I mean, as far as recognizable, when people are buying cards or submitting cards, it's really the big 3, but there is a 4th entrant trying to get off the ground. I'm sure you, as you know, CSG. They're not a sponsor. I'm not trying to give, but we have to report on it. You know, they hired Beckett's top 2 guys away from them, so they're making waves and moves in that respect. They're not new to grading. They're new to the card aspect. They've done like comic books and other different media forms. You know what? I mean, it's just obviously opinion. I mean, how do you think they're going to fare? Like, come jumping into this pool with some good games.
I could see. I mean, for me, I feel like I could see them more with the Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh type of, you know, grading. For one thing, I mean, I don't want to, you know, sound like an idiot, an ass, but the flip that they use, I just feel like it's so cheesy. You know, is that the right word? I don't know. And I've seen a lot of people saying the same thing. It's just real blah. You know, the and stuff. It just doesn't do anything for me to stand out and you know make you want to say, hey, you know, this looks pretty cool. It just looks like a blah. Looks like one of the other 8 or 9 grading companies that are out there that no one really cares about.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If you're new, the only thing someone's going to know about you is when you release what your slabs are going to look like. Yeah. And so you want to make a great first impression, especially when you're really trying to take some of that market share away from three powerhouses, if you will. The slabs, like you said, I don't think they're terrible, but they didn't knock my socks off either. They're somewhere in between. And so we're going to see, they're probably going to gain some traction early because, quite frankly, if you submit to them when they get moving here, the stuff's probably going to come back quicker because they're not going to be overwhelmed initially. And so I think there's going to be an early buzz with them. Hey, I got my cards back in 12 days, and then other people are going to be like, oh, really? Let me send 10 cards and dip my toe in the water, And so I think they'll get some of that. It's just long haul wise, are they going to be able to go in the ring and trade blows with some of these big boys? It's not as easy as you think. The only advantage they do have is they're not completely new to the process. They did hire, for whatever value you put on that, the 2 top guys at Beckett. So they're, it's almost like a sports team, signing free agents, right? They got 2 good guys from another team, but we've seen that in the sports world, right? Teams assign another team's one of their best players, and they may not make the playoffs still. So, I'll use that analogy to be interesting to see. Will that strategy pay off? And I'm not gonna lie, I don't know if I'll sub to him. Probably not. But I'm definitely gonna be paying attention. It's just for show, just for what.
Yeah, I mean, I want to see what value they hold with people. How they hold them up. Compared to Beckett or PSA. Like I said, there's a lot of, like I said, we got those other cheap, companies that obviously don't really hold much weight. I'm sure this company will hold some, like I said, because they are a known, company and people know who they are. So, but I just want to see, when those slabs start finally rolling out, how they compare to the pricing of, PSA or something like that. And then, I guess they could take it from there. But, the same thing happened kind of with SGC, maybe it was 6 months ago, where, they weren't as, busy. They were kind of cranking out and, getting stuff back on a decent time. And then, once, everyone else started getting backed up, some people started sending this to SGC. And then before you knew it, they were backlogged just as, just the same as anybody else. So, this company might, like I said, pump them out in the beginning. And, if people feel like, hey, I could keep sending, there's so many people are subbing cards right now that it's going to be, I don't think no matter where you end up going, until things start moving and, like I said, the new hires and the process of maybe some type of automation, this and that, things are still, they're going to be behind. So, it's just wait and see what happens.
Yeah. I'm really curious too, Rob, with this new company. Like, to me, they probably have the best chance to make it the Big Four. And so, to me, if they don't succeed, if they don't crack that ice and break through there and make it the Big Four, I think it really sends a message that it's going to be the Big Three, and that's it. And then, one of those could fall back, and it could be the Big Two. But in other words, if they hired the 2 Beckett guys, they have sort of a pedigree in doing this already, and they don't succeed, it's going to be hard for someone from the ground up to go in there and battle. So I think this is it's why I'm probably even keeping more of an eye on it, is because if they don't succeed, I think it's really, not that you want to, discourage anybody. It's a free enterprise. It's America. But it's going to be a big kind of example, like, hey, they couldn't even do it, and they had this kind of going for them ahead of time, and they didn't get it done. And so I think it's really the litmus test to, like, Is it going to be just the big three, or can it be, a big four? And so I'm curious, like you, to see, and like you said, it's not. We're going to have to give them some time. We can't say in 4 months from now, oh, they tried it.
Yeah.
You got to give them at least, to me, a year, maybe even 2 years, and then you kind of give your assessment of where they're at in the marketplace, or if they're at in the marketplace. And, we'll see. It'll be interesting to watch how all that progresses, and we'll see. And so, the other big news on the PSA front, unless you're living under a rock, about, Nat Turner, super high-end collector, who's a big-time subber to PSA. He's one of the owners. He's the majority owner of PSA now, $700 million deal, and not just the grading cards aspect, but the coin side and their authentication side. And everyone's given their predictions. Well, how's this going to change PSA? It's going to be better. A lot of people are already saying, "Oh, guaranteed to be better." A lot of people are saying, no, I think it's worse. I'm sort of in the middle. I know it's the kind of cop-out answer, sort of the wait and see. I on my show, I said, I think the turnaround times are going to get better. I think Nat Turner's going to come bring his own experiences to it and say, hey, I want to get these people their stuff back as soon as possible. How do we do that? Whether that's the automation stuff we talked about, I know they're hiring more people. They're advertising that much. And I think what you're going to see happening is prices increase too. I think and I mean, you deal with them directly, so you're more, qualified to talk on that. I'm just giving, armchair quarterback stuff here. But what I think is going to happen, I think turnaround times are going to get better. But I also think prices are going to, maybe not tremendously, but there's going to be an increase to hire more people, to pay the overhead and whatnot. What kind of, obviously we're all just kind of giving it, there's all speculation at this point till it happens. I mean, you work with them directly, so I mean, what do you think happens with this new ownership?
I mean, listen, like I said, Nat, I think he's a very, the guy's, made a ton of money. He's a smart guy, tech companies and stuff like that. So he's definitely going to, I'm sure look to bring in some type of, whether it's automation or some type of system to help out. He's a collector himself. He don't want to wait just as much as anybody else doesn't want to wait for the turnaround times. So I'm sure he's going to try to do something, to I guess, correct that, what's going on. But listen, PSA's, I can't knock them. They're doing everything they can. They're hiring people. They're getting more space. They're doing all the stuff that they need to do. It's just not something that could happen overnight. It's going to take some time, to get these people trained, the new employees, get the systems, everyone to learn everything, get the new space set up, and it's going to go from there. But obviously, if they're spending a lot of money on employees and space and this and that, they got to make the money back somewhere. So I mean, I haven't heard anything personally that prices are going to go up, but I mean, I would assume so eventually. Whether it's next month or a couple of months or whatever it is, I can see them going up. Up again a couple of dollars or whatever it is. But that's just the price of doing business. I mean, things go up. They're expanding to try to catch up with the backlog, and this is the best way to do it. Hire people, more space. Unfortunately, you have to raise the prices, but it's going. I think eventually, hopefully sooner than later, they're going to start to get caught up. As these new hires start to get trained and maybe go out into the field there and do what they have to do. Hopefully within a couple of months, we're talking about, hey man, these cards are coming back fast, and it's all old news about the delays.
Yeah, and so I've had a couple text message exchange with Nat, truth be told. I don't want to say I know him. I know of him. Minor conversations with him via text. I've talked to other people who know him better than I. I've never heard anyone say anything negative about the guy. He cares about the hobby. He seems to be above board. Nothing shady. Nothing anyone's pointed to that makes you take pause. And so I look at it like this. I kind of agree with you. I think from a consumer level, someone who definitely submits cards for grading, he knows that he's going to come at that with that view as a consumer. Hey, these people want to get their cards back. How do we make that happen here? Let's put our heads together and figure this out. But he's also, like you said, he's built companies up. He's got money, and people who got money got that money because they make money. Just most of the time. Some exceptions to the rule, inheritance and yada yada yada. I don't believe that's the case in that. I think he's worked at that and built, like you said, tech companies. He's got a track record of that. So, I mean, let's be honest. You buy something for $700 million, and it's not all his money. He does have other investors, but he's leading that charge.
He's got your Mets friends.
Yeah, Steve Cohen. That guy right now, I'd probably take a bullet for that guy to get rid of the Wilpons. Oh, my God. Let's not go there. We'll do a whole other show on that. But, he's anyone that spends that kind of money, I'm not saying that they're just seeing dollar signs in their eyes, but that's definitely part of the equation. So, when someone says, he's going to just do everything for us, I say a little bit like pump the brakes there. Like I'm sure he does care, and probably part of the purchase was to fix some stuff. We heard recently there were some board issues at PSA, and now with this purchase, they're going to be privatized, and so that's good and bad. That's a double-edged sword. That can be good and bad. As a private company, you don't have to answer the shareholders to say, hey, what are you doing? What direction are you taking? I own stock in this company. You're gonna hurt this company. My stock's gonna go down. What do you do? You don't have to answer that no more. And so that aspect makes me nervous. But again, there's two sides to that coin too. They don't have to answer to the board. Maybe they can do some things pro-consumer, pro-submitter, that maybe the boards would say, hey, what are you doing? We're going to lose a few dollars on the back end with that decision. So it could go either way. I guess I like the fact that, he is a consumer. He uses the product, and he knows the good and bads, the warts of it, and he's probably going to try to get rid of some of those warts. It's a tall order. It's not going to be a light switch. You just turn on and off, and it's fixed, guys. I'm the, I rode in on the white horse, and everything's good. I'm your king, and but I do think there is going to be some improvements. I'd be shocked. Let me put it that way, if nothing changed for the positive, and so we'll have to see. Again, I mean, that's the fun part of the hobby too. Is all every week something new and getting to see what's around the corner next, and so it'll be interesting to see. I equate like all these grading companies. You probably remember in the '80s. I know I'm a little bit older than you. The soda wars, right? Pepsi and Coke, battling each other. I kind of equate the grading to sort of like the cola wars of the '80s. How they used to kind of, we're better, and new and improved, or new formula, and so I think that's what we're seeing, the modern day version of the soda wars from the '80s. If you're older enough to remember those, so but it'll be interesting. I know you're going to be watching intently for what you're doing as well. You're getting bombarded with like questions. People think you have like answers already.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I like. I agree with you about them, being private. I like the fact that they might be able to, listen. Hey, we want to take $100 million and do this, and they really don't have to answer to nobody. when you're private. That's my take on the positive of being private. If they want to, do something, it's easier for them to do it now and spend the money than, possibly before when, they'd have to get approval maybe and, shareholders and, all this other stuff. But, I've been reading crazy things online too of, people saying like, oh, there goes, all his cards are going to be 10s now, and and this and that, and I mean, I don't understand.
Well, it's a great. I think it is silly. I agree with you, but it is a question like how, when you own, basically in a sense, are the controlling owner. How do you submit your cards? Like now, in his defense, Rob, we both know this. He was submitting cards before the purchase.
Oh yeah.
So this isn't like, hey, I never submitted. I'm going to buy the company and now submit my stuff.
Yeah.
But how do you walk that line? Like, what would be your, like, if you're him, you're like, how do you do that? Do you give some, like, if I'm Nat Turner, do I give you my cards?
That's what he should do. He should send all his cards to me.
Submit them. It's not my name on it.
That's what he should do. He should send all his cards to me, and then I could take care of it for him. I'll take care of it for him.
But no,
why would you even try to take that chance of doing something crazy like that? That now I couldn't see it. I mean, if I owned this company and I was doing, I would to take that chance of hey, listen, everybody was looking for 15 minutes of fame. There'd be somebody at PSA, a grader, someone that's saying, hey, this guy's coming down on us to make all his cards at 10 and stuff like that. I don't see it happening. Listen, and I'm sure there might be employed people that some of the higher ups now at PSA, I'm sure collect cards and stuff like that. Yeah. So I'm sure there's all protocol in line and everything like that. So I'm not worried about that.
Yeah, I'm not as worried as some, but I'm just wondering if you're him. Do you have something in place? Like, are you just going to say, hey, look, these are my cards, just so everything's above board? I know it is, but just for the aesthetics of it, please, you submit them under your name so there's no attachment, at least, visually to me. When you get them back, they're my cards. I'll take you to lunch or whatever, a very expensive lunch. But just so if anyone says, oh, hey, listen, I submitted them. My name wasn't on them. They weren't my cards. Yeah. But they weren't my, no, whoever graded them here didn't know they were my cards.
They're my cards, exactly.
Yeah. I like to see something like, at least it takes sort of, if he does it that way, he can point to that and say, listen, I know this was going to, the perception, which isn't always reality, but the perception would be an issue. And so this is what I did. You don't, whether you believe that or not, that's honest to God truth. And that's all I can only tell you what I actually did. And, if you want to believe that, great. And if you don't, I don't know what else to tell you, but that's what I did. I like to see him do something like that. Like you, I agree with you. He's not going to risk his reputation.
Yeah.
He's got plenty. His collection. He's not hurting whatsoever. So I don't think he has to do. I don't think
he does Beckett as well, I believe. Too.
Yeah.
So,
maybe that's the end. Maybe that's.
You gotta send everything to Beckett.
Yeah, I've thought about that too. Like he almost has to give the competition business. But
yeah.
I want to step aside one more time for a quick break, but we'll be back very shortly with Rob Valenti. Pastime Marketplace offers a line of durable graded card cases made for collectors who want high-quality graded card storage that is virtually indestructible. Their cases are waterproof, dustproof, airtight, and designed to protect your valuable collection. Check them all out at www.pastimemarketplace.com. Protect your best with the best. And remember to save 10% off your total order. Use the promo code SCN10. That's capital S, capital C, capital N, 10 for 10% off your total order at pastimemarketplace.com. Sports Card Nation is back with Rob Valenti from Iron Sportscards. One last question, but it's something I've seen a lot, especially lately, Rob, this year of 2020, is people who aren't into the grading niche just really taking pot shots. And not only the grading people, the grading companies, people who grade, but even the people who grade, like us on the ground level who submit cards, like, where it's foolish, it doesn't make sense. And just, I guess my question to you is, why do you think that's occurring? I'm not saying it's never happened. I think it's always probably been people said, oh, that's like, I even thought it was silly at first. I just didn't really bash it on the level you're seeing now. My thoughts is some of it's a little bit with the pandemic. People were sort of grumpy, a little bit angst. What say you as far as why do you have you noticed that yourself, and why do you think it's occurring if you have?
I mean, I see people like on my Facebook group and stuff, but they'll make comments, and like I don't say nothing back. I mean, I don't know if they're just negative. It could be, listen, it's expensive. If you really think about it, sometimes grading is expensive. It's possible they just, they don't have the budget to do it. So they want to, so that's a way for them is to put it down. It could just be that, they're old school and they never had a card graded and they don't like having them graded. Some of them think it's, the discrepancies between, that you see between BGS and PSA where people, sometimes resub and, hey, it was a PSA 10, but now it's a BGS 9 or vice versa. And, and any negative that they can get out of it, they're just going to grab onto that and they're just going to, put the people down that are, trying to, whether, some people just PC. They don't care about that the card's a $5 card or a $1,000 card. They want it slabbed just for their PC and, they want to keep it. Then there's, a lot of people that, listen, a lot of people are making a living doing this stuff. So, I mean, you can't knock them down. I mean, if their regular job was at McDonald's or at the bank, you're going to put them down because it's not something that you wanted to do. I mean, this is their livelihood. They want to get the card graded. They want to make some money, on grading the card. And it is what it is. I mean, I see, like I said, I see guys, will mention something on my Facebook page. They put their 2 cents in, and they've never graded a card or done anything. And I hold my breath. I don't want to say anything, but I want to say, listen, you've never graded a card. You've never worked to me. You've never done anything. Why are you even commenting, on here? If you only have negative, we don't need the negativity here. I mean, there's enough of that around. I mean, I don't need you to, come in here and put people down that just want to, people that love the hobby of having fun, people that want to make money, and doing this, as a business. I don't need you to come onto, my page or any other, I'm sure it happens in a lot of other groups, and they just come in negativity and putting people down. There's no need for it. Listen, it's a fun hobby. A lot of people have a lot of fun. I have fun talking to people and everything. So, I mean, listen, leave the negativity out of it.
Yeah, I think it comes from, I think it's a combination of things, Rob, what I see. I'm seeing it more on like social media too. I usually stay off message boards. It's a rabbit hole I don't like to go down because, 2 hours later, you're like, oh my God, where did the time go? And you can't get it back. But I see it a lot on social media. Just people are like, wow, you're spending, oh man, it's expensive. What is it doing? It's the same card, just inside of plastic. They really, and you're not looking at, that's just what you see. Let's break it down. I mean, I don't want to spend a ton of time, but number one, it's protecting the card.
Yeah.
Let's take the value out of it for a second. Especially on the vintage level, these cards can deteriorate now. Being encapsulated, it protect that UV stuff that breaks the card down. It's expecting it less. You drop a card, you ding it. Now it's protected in that regard. And let's listen. this is a big business. To not talk about the business side of this in this year of 2020, which historically may go down as the best year ever in the hobby. As crazy as that sounds during the pandemic, but that's where we're at. Hey, Rob, I want to thank you. I know it took a long time getting you on the show.
Okay.
Glad we got you on. We really covered the grading aspect, probably more in depth than I on the show, and I couldn't think of who better to talk about this, especially in current times. So I want to wish you, number one, thank you for being, part of Sports Card Nation. I can't thank you enough, and continued success with Iron Sportscards. For those listening, I've submitted with Rob. He's Class A, top notch. I can't recommend anyone above him. And if you don't believe me, go to. I'm going to give him a chance to give his kind of final stuff where you can find Iron Sports, but go there and read what other people are saying as well. It's not just me. I'm one of many voices that say. We'll tell you, sub with Rob. You won't be disappointed. So again, thanks, Rob. You got the last words here. Take your time. Give out all those social media websites, all that good stuff.
All right, great. Thanks a lot, John. I appreciate you having me on. It's been a long time, and glad we finally got to do it. So for everybody out there that is interested in doing some PSA submissions. You can check our website out at www.ironsportscards.com. We have a form on there, and basically the whole instructions of what you need to do, the price list and everything like that. You could also find us on Facebook at Iron PSA Subs, and then we also have our buy and sell group, which is just Iron Sports Cards, and then we're also on Twitter and Instagram at Iron Sports Cards. We currently have a giveaway for December as well. Besides one we're doing with John, we have one. If you send at least 10 cards, you're going to be entered in to win a firebox case, which is a pretty cool case. To, hold all your slabbed cards. We got some hats that I've been giving away. Finally, I got some shirts in. Finally, I had a guy who actually helped me out. And we made these pretty cool stands that the cards sit on.
Those are nice.
One for Iron PSA and one for Iron Sports. And basically they hold any slab cards on there. So, we're going to try to be, doing things, through the rest of this month. And then next year, working on a website. We have a website, but we're working on, doing the website a little better. Going to have a little better tracking system for the PSA subs than we have right now, just to give a little more, people could just go on there basically and check and be a little more up to date. Try to stop some of the inflow of messages. I love all the messages, guys. Anyway, I answer everybody back all the time, and that's one of the biggest things that actually everyone tells me is how easy I am to get in touch with, and that that I answer it back, which is great. I'm glad I can help everybody out. But hopefully in the future with the new site and the new tracking system, it'll make it easier for everybody. They won't have to message me as much or ask questions like that. But so look forward to Happy New Year to everybody, a Merry Christmas, a Happy Holidays, and better things to come in 2021. Thanks a lot, everybody. And thank you, John.
Hey, thanks, Rob. One of One Card Shop offers a tremendous breaking experience, great customer service, and they're constantly pulling fire. Steve and his family take care of you like one of their own and treat you right. Anyone can break, but no one treats you like One of One. Come check them out on Instagram at one_of_one_card_shop. For all the hot breaks, get a gold mailer headed your way.
I know the chunky that left these chunkies. Newman! Open the door, Newman. I know you're in there.
Hello, Jerry. All right, it's time for Newman's Rambling, where I select one question I get each week and answer it on the air.
John, you seem like an astute man.
Thank you, Mr. Walken.
Maybe you can help explain something to me.
Well, I'll give it my best shot. All right, today's question comes via the way of Instagram from Smithy's Cards. I think I'm saying that right, Smithy's Cards. And it reads, John, I enjoy both your shows, Hobby Quick Hits and Sports Card Nation. I see you moved, I couldn't find Hobby Quick Hits, and then I realized you moved it over to the same release site as Sports Card Nation. You explained vaguely kind of why, but can you go into more detail why? Well, a good question. I'm glad you enjoy both shows. First off, thank you for that. One of the reasons I did it, and I really debated doing it. Quite frankly, I almost didn't do it, kind of because they have their own identity. Hobby Quick Hits, if you listen to that show, as you know, is a short form, just me, no guests, no ads, other than the anchor one, and one topic, 20, can be anywhere from literally 12 minutes to 40 minutes in length, comes out on Wednesdays, and this show that you're listening to obviously is a guest-driven, longer show, and they're different from each other vastly, and so I didn't know if I wanted to put them on the same platform, but, to be blunt honest with you, and I'm a very transparent and honest guy, Sports Card Nation gets about twice the listens. Both shows are doing real well, but Sports Card Nation gets about twice the listens that Hobby Quick Hits got. And I just thought, not a lot of people probably are exposed to it as maybe that could enjoy it potentially. And then I thought, there are other sports card hobby shows that do kind of different shows on different days. And I'm like, why not just, bring it over, see how it does. Worst case, you could always go back. I mean, it's not easy to go back, but you could always go back and see how it goes. And we're 3 episodes in where it's released over here. And frankly, I probably should have did it sooner. Obviously, listens are up considerably, and I'm getting a lot of feedback from, frankly, people who listen to this show, Sports Card Nation, who honestly had no idea. I've gotten these messages that Hobby Quick Hits existed until I put it over here on the platform. And I was wondering about that. I was wondering if that was the case. And so it was probably something I should have did sooner. The show is obviously getting more rotation and exposure now here on this platform than on its own standalone one. And so probably not going to go back. And, for the first 41 episodes, if people want to backtrack, you can search all the major, podcast platforms for Hobby Quick Hits. They'll all be there in the archives. What I may do, just full disclosure, is a couple what I consider key episodes that are on the standalone platform. I may rerun them, on the main platform now, being that we're getting more rotation. So I haven't decided that fully. I've got about 20 topics written down. I'm literally looking at them on my dry erase board in front of me. 20 topics that are all candidates for future Hobby Quick Hits episodes. And so no shortage of topics. And so to rerun some of the old ones, and at least not right away. And so we're going to bring you some, I hope, great content, if I may be so bold. And if you like the shorter form, I take care of you. And if you like the longer form, we got you covered there too. So thanks, Smithy's Cards. Great question. And there you have it. So that kind of maybe clears up the mystery a little bit. And hope that I'm sure there was probably more than just Smithy's Cards that was wondering that. And again, I got quite a few messages. Hey, I didn't even know you did this other show. I love it, or I like it a lot. And so I was a little bit, I had a feeling that might be the case. And then until you actually see that and confirms that, it made a lot of sense. And so we're here. We're going to keep it that way. And I appreciate everyone that listens to either show or both of them. Well, that does it for episode 109 of Sports Card Nation Podcast. As always, thank you, the listener out there, for your time and consideration. We appreciate that tremendously. I say it every episode. I'll say it every episode because I mean it every time I say it. So thank you out there. Thank you, Rob Valenti, for coming on the show, sharing some of that insight and the grading market and what you're doing and how things are going. One of the best, quite frankly, in the business when it comes to PSA submissions. Check him out. I sponsor the show, but, I submit through him as well. So I know from personal experience how he does business, and completely above board, A-class service, top of the line. And I'm not just saying that. That's just the truth. Again, check out Hobby Quick Hits on this platform. As I mentioned earlier in the Newman Says segment, that show comes out on Wednesdays. This show, obviously, on Fridays. Hobby Hotline every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Rotating host schedule. Call in, be interactive with us, and doing very well there, too, with some of the new additions, some great folks, and happy to be even a small part of that. And other thing, in the closing on some of these shows, you might hear a snippet of a song. I tried to kind of theme the episode a little bit, not exactly, but chances are, sometimes I may just like the song itself, or there may be sort of a subliminal message there, if you will. But I'm a lover of music, so if I can incorporate a little bit into this show without overdoing it, you might hear some of that. So we're gonna call it a show. I want to thank you out there again for making us part of your life, and I also want to thank you. Like I mentioned in the Newman's Ramblin' section there. You really sort of embraced Hobby Quick Hits after I brought it over here, and I want to say I appreciate that as well. We got many new Hobby Quick Hits coming, a lot of different and interesting topics, and I try to do with that show, folks, sort of different topics, stuff you're not, I'm not, being conceited here or being a little bold. I'm trying to do topics that you don't hear all the time on other shows. It's the hobby's more than just analytics and buy this and don't buy that and do this and don't do that. And that's all well and good, but there's a lot more to the hobby. There's many layers, and I'm going to try to cover those in short form with that show. So Happy New Year, everybody. Our first show, or second show after the award, first interview show after the award show. So Happy New Year. I hope everyone remains healthy, safe, and has a great and prosperous hobby year as 2020 was as well. If it's any sign for me, January is really hot out the box early. So hopefully that continues hobby-wise, and on the non-hobby side, I hope we get on the other side of this pandemic and start to get some sort of normalcy and events back that we missed out on in 2020. So with that being said, take care. We'll see you in 7 days. We'll see you Wednesday for Hobby Quick Hits. Take care.